welcome to gagrul.net. This is Gagrul live on Facebook. And my name is Wally Sarkissian with Haik Martirosyan. He's a very intelligent guy. He knows a lot about Armenian politics. And now today we're hoping he would update us on this Azerbaijani aggression on Artsakh. Haik, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan.
So fill us with what is going on. We woke up yesterday. Yesterday, I got this Pashinyan Facebook things. It was like about 3-4 minutes, and I didn't know whether this is hacking was or true was. And he was saying it's the Azeris unleashing on Artsakh and be calm. It was like. It was not some normal thing you every day hear, but that's how we stayed all night, and same thing tonight. So welcome, and please tell us what do you know.
Thank you. So the first day, everybody was glued to the screens, computers, television, etc. We already know that the first day was not a very successful day for the Armenian forces and the Armenia itself, because the officials announced that we have lost some territories, some positions, that we have had human casualties, military casualties, civilian casualties. But today it is night here in the US, but the day has just begun in Armenia. Mm-hmm. It's promising to be a good one, because the night in Armenia and the Karabakh contact line, Artsakh contact line, has been somewhat successful for the Armenian forces, which is very reassuring, because the news of the previous day and the start of the night were not that reassuring. They were not very positive. Azeris had hit, Azerbaijanis had hit a lot of infrastructure, Armenian infrastructure, important infrastructure, including cell towers, including weapons depot, and some other important buildings and infrastructure, but seems that the Armenian side is slowly recovering.
So they were pretty good planned, these things.
Of course, Azerbaijan would never attack without very meticulous planning, and they used heavy aerial bombardment technique. They prepped the ground for ground forces invasion. But of course, Armenian forces thwarted the attacks. However, the casualties and the losses were not negligible on Armenian part. Of course, Azerbaijanis had some serious losses as well. I have criticized, I have held about 24 hours of silence regarding the Armenian government's some mistakes, but then I started criticizing. But then I guess the military kicked in and took the matters in their own hands. And along with hopefully the government, the successes are probably starting to pick up, which is a very important development for this morning. That's what we all hoped for. That's all that we expected to happen. However, yesterday, there was this extraordinary session of the parliament in which Pashinyan had one of his speeches. And it was a very, very depressing speech that showed that the government is pretty much stressed and in distress. Pashinyan spoke about, he used the Armenian word zohvel, sacrificing himself. It was pretty dramatic. And I don't think that had a good impact on the population's morale in Armenia. Then we heard the speech of Sasun Mikhailian, who's the Yerkrapah Union's head, the paramilitary organization, NGO. And Sasun Mikhailian was talking about losing Martakert at some point during the first period of the war in the 90s, and then gaining it back and liberating it back in about a year. So there was this impression that the government is preparing the people for the losses that have already taken place, and they are still to come, and they were trying to reassure the people, but it had the opposite effect. I mean, those speeches were horrific. Even if you are losing, you're not supposed to project that depressive mood, especially if you're the only person who's the only commander-in-chief in wartime, according to the Armenian constitution, and that is the prime minister. Also, there was some talk yesterday about recognizing Artsakh Republic's independence, which is a horrendous mistake to do, because the whole game with Artsakh independence is something that First President Levon Ter-Petrosyan came up with just to free himself from any liability, political liability, I mean international relations liability, or any responsibility in terms of dealing with Artsakh issue any further. So he came up with this almost criminal idea that Artsakh should be independent, and Artsakh declared forcefully, by the way, its independence not from Azerbaijan but from Armenia itself, because it was already included in 1991 in Soviet Armenia, therefore after that in the independent Republic of Armenia. And suddenly it declared independence, and the game went on and on and on, and now it continues. And Pashinyan yesterday answered to Edmond Marukian, head of one of the opposition parties in the parliament, that yes, the government is considering recognizing Artsakh's independence. Why is it a dangerous idea? I have spoken about this at length, but I will repeat myself once again. It is very dangerous because in that way, there is no way you can legally justify the inclusion or the keeping of the liberated, so-called liberated 7 regions of Armenia that have been occupied by Azerbaijan and have not been part of Nagorno-Karabakh Republic inside Azerbaijani Republic. They have been part of Soviet Azerbaijan itself. Therefore, it is impossible to legally, on international arena, claim that those territories should stay Armenian, or any other territories that Armenians hopefully will liberate in coming days, hopefully. There is no way you can justify this legally. So the only way to justify, what is the only way? It's to claim historical facts, to pinpoint history, which is legal history, according to which those territories have been part of First Republic of Armenia from 1918 to 1920. And the League of Nations, which is the predecessor of the United Nations organization, has recognized these territories as part of Republic of Armenia. Therefore, they have been occupied by the illegal Soviet Bolshevik regime when the Republic of Azerbaijan was created.
So let me understand this. So there are some people in Armenia, they say they want to join, Artsakh join to Armenia. And there are some people saying, no, leave it alone. So where is that your point? You want it to stay as independent or to join?
My point is that independence is stupidity, and it's very dangerous stupidity. It is a stupidity initiated by Levon Ter-Petrosyan. It has been solely his idea and his regime's idea. And now that idea lives on, turns out. Artsakh should be unified or reunified with the Republic of Armenia.
Okay.
It is part of Republic of Armenia. That is the only way to shut down any further speculation about Artsakh, any further disastrous negotiations that have taken place for the past 30 years. Nobody has recognized Artsakh's independence in the world, and nobody will recognize it. While if you include it legally in Armenia, there is no issue of recognition. There is no issue of dealing with Azerbaijanis anymore.
Like Russia took what was that?
Russia went that way because they calculated that that's the only way to just, put a point on that issue. Armenians, the other way, went the crazy way. They say, first let the international community recognize the Republic of Artsakh, and then we will reunify. Why? What the hell? That's the stupidest thing out there, and many people still believe in it, and this government believes in it. So that's unacceptable. My point is, this is the point. The governments, the consecutive governments in Armenia have always been extremely scared and afraid that after recognizing, which is a wrong thing, or especially unifying it, reunifying it, rejoining it to Armenia, would would incite a new war. Well, there you are. We have a war.
Yeah.
Without any of this.
Every other month you have war.
Yes. And morally, you have all the rights, absolutely all the rights to do anything in your defense right now. And then we see again that the government doesn't do these things. They start talking about recognizing Artsakh, which is a big question. What does it give to Armenia? Well, Armenia will recognize the Artsakh, let's imagine. Artsakh Republic independence. What happens next? Nothing. It's like Turkey and Turkish Cyprus, Northern Cyprus. You recognize, and then the world doesn't recognize even more.
That's
but
correct.
If you include, the issue is done. I mean, it is obvious, right, after especially this war, or during this war, it should be, I mean, only idiots cannot see this, that there is no way any talks with Azerbaijan may be fruitful. They want unconditionally, not only Artsakh, but also the whole Armenia, the rest of Armenia. Yerevan. I mean, who are you negotiating with, or what games are you playing for? I mean, what games are you playing? Is it intended and addressed to international community? Yes, it is. That is why the governments have always been scared of doing anything and have followed Levon Ter-Petrosyan's line. But excuse me, the international community is not crazy. They see what's happening. Everybody knows what's happening. We see from the US State Department's announcement today, a statement today, that essentially they recognize by condemning the third party's involvement, which is, of course, naturally addressed to Turkey, they are supporting essentially the Armenian side. So, which means that the one of the very most important players of the international community understands who the aggressor is. And that aggressor is certainly not Armenia. So we have all the moral rights, and especially if we had the courage and the wisdom to refer to the League of Nations decision, and also to Woodrow Wilson, President Woodrow Wilson's arbitrary award, which is also a legal international document. We have all the rights, especially being a victim of this very, very current.
So what do you say?
Aggression.
So
to claim that we have all the rights to unify all the liberated territories and Nagorno-Karabakh with Armenia.
So what do you say? Population, Armenian population, and Artsakh would accept your idea?
Listen, it's not only my idea. It's an idea of now. Now, it wasn't popular about 4 years ago. It is very popular now. But it is not only my idea. It is
no, I'm just saying, of course.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. We should take into consideration two factors. There are people who are not very much educated in Artsakh issues, like most of the diaspora, because they didn't have the time, or they didn't make the efforts. They have their own lives in different countries. There is that same section inside Armenia as well that didn't dedicate the time studying the issue, understanding or listening to different views. They heard that Artsakh should be independent because it's good for Armenia, so they are still for it, right? There are totally ignorant parts of population also, which is not very large, but there's some amount of people, some number of people. And in Artsakh, it's also divided. There are a lot of people who say that we don't need to go that route. We need to reunify with Armenia. All of this is a stupid game. And there are people who start developing this sense that they are a bit different from Armenia, which is a very dangerous thing for us.
So basically,
don't know this.
So basically, Karabakh themselves, they could say, we want to join to Armenia. We don't want to be a republic.
But they cannot do that. The people cannot do that unless the Armenian government in Yerevan initiates the process. On the other hand, don't forget that Karabakh, Artsakh, the so-called Republic of Artsakh, has its own government, so-called government, with its own president, whom we call a marspet, like a governor of Artsakh, because we consider it part of Armenia. It's a symbolic thing, but we call it so. So therefore, the government, they have a parliament, they have a foreign minister, they have a security council, they have president's office. you know, all of this is crazy stuff, but those people don't want to lose power. They don't want to be called governor. They don't want to be a governor. They don't want to be like, you know, like a city council type of thing or state council type of thing. They want to be a parliament, you see? They want to have all those salaries and etc. It's a lot of jobs at stake. Let me put it this way. So the so-called government of Artsakh is very much against this idea. They say that should happen, but should happen at some point, not right now. It's like, you know, my friend Ara Papian says it's jumping over the ridge twice, you know, in one jump, making 2 jumps in 1 jump. I mean, in 2 steps.
Okay.
It's crazy.
All right. So that's a debate by itself. We have to do it with a couple other people, you know, because that's when I was in Armenia, I talked to about that subject with the Tashnak head, with other people. Everybody had the reasoning why and why not, but that's okay. So right now, as we speak, what is the situation in Karabakh?
Well, the situation is that the situation was pretty dangerous yesterday late evening, as I mentioned. But this morning's news are pretty reassuring. It is that Armenians have captured an Azerbaijani general. Some media sources claim that that's the general who was responsible for the capture of the so-called Lele Tepe mount, which is an essential strategic point that was captured in 2016.
General Macy's?
Yeah.
And
also they say that the media sources claim that some territories that had been captured the first day have been liberated today, which is a very, very good sign. That means that the morale in the Armenian army is getting higher than it was yesterday, and the morale in Azerbaijani side should go down, which is essentially something that was expected, that should happen naturally. Because when it's one thing when you defend your home, your house, your historic lands, and another thing when you're the aggressor and you want to capture something. But also it should be noted that turns out that according to many reliable sources, Azerbaijan had really redeployed some Islamist extremist forces, especially the Turkoman forces, some Turkoman forces from Turkoman brigades from Syria, and also reportedly some ISIS members from Syria to Azerbaijan to fight. And there are reports that around 90 of those creatures have been
is that true? Has been killed?
Well, nobody knows what the number is, but the reports indicate that there is a very high probability of the information being true.
But I just they were Shushan, I think is the lady name, always talks. I just put it, the video, like they say, well, they're showing the bodies, you know, Azerbaijani bodies, but they say about 400. So we don't know how much truth is that.
4,000 has been the number, which is
4,000?
Yeah, which is a bit questionable. Probably 400 is more realistic.
Yeah.
Nobody knows these things. I mean, even the Karabakh administration, the Artsakh administration, hasn't come up with a clear number, but there are very credible reports that indeed terrorists have been redeployed by Azerbaijan from Syria to fight in this operation, which is a massive operation against Armenia. And thankfully, our Armenian forces are able to defend the line. And also, it is we must note also, this is very important, that the plan, the Azerbaijani plan, has always been to have or register some very serious gains in a blitzkrieg type of way of attack. And that has thwarted, that has failed. That hasn't happened. That's not going to happen again, most probably.
They were trying to cut the north part of
momentum.
They were trying to cut the north part of it where it connects to Sevan, that road, but apparently they couldn't.
Well, they were. My sources tell me that the road through Vartanis is closed, but it's closed by the Armenian forces for security reasons for the civilian population. However, Azerbaijanis have zero control over the Vartanis road, even though they reported in their media that they have control. Azerbaijanis have also falsely reported and claimed that they have taken the Mount of Mrav, which is a very important strategic point under Armenian control in historic Armenia. And that has also proven to be an absolutely false information, even though some other reports claim that some little territories have been captured by Azerbaijani forces around Iran. Those haven't found any confirmation yet.
So zero loss and gain right now?
Well, no. Of course, Armenian authorities and military have reported losses, territorial losses. Around 30 lives lost amongst the military.
No, I'm talking territory.
Territory-wise, we have lost something, but it is unclear how much we have recovered during the night. But we have recovered indeed. There are very credible reports, and also the government says that some liberation process has taken place at night. How much, nobody knows. I think the Armenian government is very cautious about releasing information, which is not good. I mean, of course, they have to be cautious, but when you create time gaps, when you create suspicion, when you create a lot of things, and you try to control people, saying, "Oh, you're not supposed to disseminate information," which is crazy. That's Soviet tactics. You always fail in your mission.
Yeah.
So they have to be more open, even though they claim they are very open. They are not really very
But
open.
at least they are more open than Azeris, you know. So.
Well, Azeris lie and they are very close, but Armenians don't lie, except Armenian party, Armenian side is delaying the release of the truthful information somewhat, or they are trying to release it bit by bit, which in my opinion is not really a smart thing to do. But of course there are those people who believe, oh, it should be like that because it's war, you can't release everything. Of course nobody expects the military to release secret information or strategic information, but losses and gains and etc. I mean, when you create doubt and when you try to control the release of information by unofficially banning it, and then you try to release it, the truthful information, you release it, of course, but you release it with some delay, that creates a lot of doubt. Nobody needs that doubt in Armenia. I mean, the information is trusted. Even I, being one of the harshest, if not the harshest critic of Pashinyan government, mostly trust the information that the government releases, the Armenian information. It's all about timing. It's all about how quick or how fast they release. I guess they're very cautious of not demoralizing, but if you have a prime minister who goes to parliament and has a speech like he had yesterday, that's way more demoralizing than any criticism.
Actually, I
government or any bad information.
I could agree with you, because his message on Facebook was sort of depressing, that's why I didn't know that was
not
like.
Facebook, but if you watch the parliamentary speech, what prime minister stands on the first day says, "I am ready to sacrifice my life." It's as if he's going to die. I mean,
but that same thing. What is his name? The Karabakh president too. He was saying we're gonna die, and I don't know what things like that.
Well, Artsakh Harutyunyan's case is a bit different because he's right on the front line.
Yes.
I think, of course, it's also a bit. I think it was a bit bizarre, to put it very mildly, on Artsakh Harutyunyan's part, to go to the parliament when there are drones hitting targets in Artsakh, to gather the whole Artsakh parliament there, and he himself is there and having a speech. Those things should be happening in bunkers, in secure locations. I mean, there are shortcomings and things that raise eyebrows, but at least we don't see, to this point, I hope we will never see, that's my great hope, some acts of treason as we used to see in 2016 when Sir Sarkissian's regime was dealing with the April attack, where in my personal, and not only my personal belief, a clear-cut act of treason had taken place on the Armenian part. On the Armenian government's part, not the Armenian part. We don't see those signs today. That's very reassuring, by the way, and I hope we will never see.
We really don't know the strength of Armenian military. We know the strength of people. You know, people will. I mean, we saw like people will line up. 10,000 people wanted to go and fight. You know, so we know that, but we don't know the strength. Because one time I interviewed the Surpazan, the Karabakh Surpazan, and he said like every time they come and we defeat them and they call Russia, they make a peace, and then they come again. He says, this time we're not. We're going just to go all the way. So I'm wondering if Armenia can do that.
Wally, that's an excellent question. Many people ask that. Many people say maybe this country will not allow, maybe that country will not allow, maybe the third country will not allow. You know what?
You don't make your decision on countries.
Exactly. You nailed it. Smart countries. I mean, there is even an academic research on the topic, how many leaders don't pick up phones of other, like bigger and more influential countries, leaders' calls. They don't pick up the calls. They don't pick up the phone to answer until they have their goals achieved on the battlefield.
But the question is, do Armenian has that military strength can go further?
That's also a great question, and let me start from some very, very interesting thing. Confucius, the Chinese philosopher, has a story. There is a story associated with him. When he's asked what an army needs, what a people needs to win over the enemy, he says bread, weapons, and spirit. And what if they need two things? They ask. He says bread and spirit. And what if one? He responds spirit. So you can defeat your enemy with spirit alone.
Yes.
What we have is absolute spirit. That's our greatest weapon. Azerbaijanis have way better weapons. Everybody knows that. They have way more powerful military. Their numbers are way higher. They have terrorists fighting on their part, on their side. But Armenians have a spirit. And it is that spirit that even despite the internal government treason in 2016, the young kids, 18, 20-year-old kids, like Robert Abajan, like Armenia Kurfanyan, like a lot of others, thwarted the attack. They didn't obey the orders of the command to retreat, not to fight, things like that have been widely reported. They have fought to the last drop of their blood. And that's how the attack didn't reach its final goal. Of course, we lost that battle, but we didn't lose the war in April of 2016.
Well, that's the whole idea.
And now when very, very hopefully, and I believe that there is no indication of any treason taking place at this point, of course, spirit is going to be even of a greater force. And that's what we have. That's what we need. So answering to your question, yes, we have all the resources to defeat Azerbaijanis and to liberate more territories. Now the issue is, will the Armenian government have the guts to let the military move forward? Because you know what? It's an open secret in Armenia, and those who are in political circles know this very well. The political establishment has always been against going further because they have been scared, because they have been cowards, and the military.
That's why we don't have Nakhichevan.
Yes, that's the first war, and but the military has always been for liberating more territories, more truly authentic Armenian territories that are still under occupation of Azerbaijan. This is the time. This is the time to solve this problem, and I hope that Pashinyan himself understands that if he doesn't do that, and if he doesn't do anything legally, he doesn't use this unique opportunity that grants us all the moral rights to do something about the status of Karabakh, not to seek a recognition by Azerbaijan. What kind of idiot establishment, like Levon Ter-Petrosyan's did, would defeat an enemy that we did in 1994, go sign a ceasefire with the enemy, and then ask the enemy to recognize their victory, ask and in return promised 7 regions of the liberated lands. I mean, that is the utmost idiocy and craziness that we have been engaged in for 30 years. It is time to stop right now. I'm not sure we will, but I want to hope very much that that's a possibility.
How about those outside Karabakh, those region, like they say 20%, whatever?
That's what I'm talking about. Seven regions.
Right.
Of the
So you're saying join all that to Armenia? Is that what you're saying?
Excuse me?
Are you saying Karabakh, including those 7 regions?
Of course, because you know what? When we say Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, or when we say Karabakh or Artsakh, we ignorantly understand the fake autonomous Republic of Artsakh that has been created by the Bolshevik regime inside Soviet Azerbaijan. It has been carved from Armenia and given to Soviet Azerbaijan. That is the autonomous republic, the so-called NKR in Russian and Lghim Lernayin Qarabaghi Inknabar Mars in Armenian. Well, that's ignorance, because the true Artsakh, the real Nagorno-Karabakh or Artsakh, the larger Artsakh, which is also the plains of Artsakh, the northern Artsakh, that's a way larger and wider territory that includes those 7 territories. There are the historic regions of Artsakh and Utik of Armenia. And after that, Kur and Araks rivers, the Kur and Araks rivers, have been the natural boundaries of the historic Armenia and the first republic of Armenia. So up to these rivers is all Armenia, is all Artsakh and Utik. Okay? After that, beyond that point, is the historic Akhvang, which is the historic Caucasian or Caucasus Albania, a Christian country that has been gone from the annals of history, and now the Turkic tribes that call themselves Azerbaijan occupied. But even part of that is occupied by the natives of the land, who are Persian-speaking, ethnically Persian minorities who are oppressed by Azerbaijan, whom Azerbaijan is trying to Turkify, and who are seen as natural allies of Armenians in Armenia. So even beyond the boundary of the rivers, there are people who need to be liberated, and Armenia can play a role in that. In fact, in early 90s, when the war was ongoing, a Talish Mugham Republic, a republic of ethnic Talishes, who are ethnic Persians or ethnic Iranians, was proclaimed by Talish people, and they gained their independence for a very brief period. This is a very little known fact, especially in diaspora. But then Azerbaijanis or the Turkic ethnic element crushed them. But they still are dreaming about independence, and we can be helpful. This is the point to take an action. You miss this opportunity, you have harmed your country. And this is addressed to the government. It's good that the Armenian military is recovering and registering some advances, but there is a duty for the political leadership to do the most and the maximum it can to solve this issue once and forever. There is going to be no second chance, or the second chance will not work.
Yeah, I think they should not let this blood spill. Just say, okay, we defeat them and do it again. They should some fruit come out of this.
Wally, you see, this war happened because April 2016 was in vain. The losses we suffered, the 100+ casualties, turns out in a bigger scheme were partly in vain. Not in vain because they preserved Armenia and Artsakh by paying with their lives, but strategically and in a bigger picture, if that occasion wasn't faced with internal treason, but if the Armenian government was a national government if the Armenian government at that point would make the decision to advance forward, to re-liberate Lele Tepe, to re-liberate other territories, now we could have been solved the problem, the issue altogether. And that's why Azerbaijan prepared itself for 4 years. And they came back now. So if we don't do it now, there is going to be another war, a way worse
There's
war.
no end.
In the near future, there is no end. There is going to never be an end. There is never going to be a diplomatic solution to Artsakh issue. And unfortunately, that's not the Armenian decision. That's what Azerbaijanis have decided for themselves.
Yeah.
Their national ideology is built and constructed over the idea that Armenia is Azerbaijan.
So in short,
they have owned the land. That's it. They don't need Artsakh by itself. Artsakh is a minor thing for them. They want the whole Armenia. We need to understand this.
In short, what is your solution, just in 1 minute?
Move forward, liberate more territories, reach the two rivers, and especially Armenian forces have a moral obligation to take the town of Yevlakh, which is a very important hub. And if you control that, you control a lot of communications. And then the international community deals with you in a very respectful way. And of course, we should respect the international community's interests after we take control of the territories that are historically Armenian territories, that are part of the First Republic of Armenia. And no Armenian previous government stupidly has claimed those lands as legally Armenian.
Next
That is the only way.
Next time, we'll put a map, and then you could draw the map.
Pleasure.
The territory you want to control it. But I
don't want control. I want it returned to the Republic of Armenia.
I agree some of that. I think it's this recognizing Karabakh as another kind. See, like always they give example of Kosovo. Kosovo, U.S. went in there. U.S. destroyed Serbia. It was a U.S. become U.S. baby, and they recognize. But Karabakh doesn't. We're not anybody's baby, you know, and so we have to do it ourselves. And so therefore they have to just take. I don't know. Maybe we should. I don't know that area. See, that's my weakness. That's why people like you.
You open the map. It's easy. You don't need to know it.
Yeah, I know, but it's one thing is if you could see the hills and down and the rivers. What is important strategically, you know. So that's militaries. They look at maps. So.
And also the scientists.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Wes, thank you very much. You are always interesting. And,
thank you for having me.
So we'll do it little, and this especially with this things. Maybe we do it next day, second day, or as it comes, because we need your brain, you know.
With pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you for.
Yeah, but don't make it this late. You know, I can't. You know, I like to wake up in the morning early, but I don't want to go sleep late.
Wally, I told you yesterday that if we do this, we got to do this when we have good news. I didn't want to go into this having the bad news because, you know, Armenian people, we need to know this and we need to voice this. Armenian people hate bad news. They may just devour you just because you're the messenger of the bad news, you know. So I said, let's wait, maybe something good happens, and there you go, something good happens.
Well, that's okay, because today we didn't talk just things for today, you know. This is a discussion for future, you know. But,
Sure.
You know, so, yeah, I mean, it's great. So if you got something tomorrow, you're always welcome. So,
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah, we like to make I wish we could do every week, one day every week, conversation on this. Because people always get interested when they see something consistent, you know. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. We'd appreciate very much your input. And for viewers, thank you for watching. As you could see, the guy has lots of energy. He stayed live until like, what is now time? It's 1 o'clock, you know. So anyway, Mr. Martirosyan, thank you.
Thank you, Wally, and sorry for keeping you up.
All right. All right. So you guys have a good evening or good night or good morning, wherever you live. Thank you. Bye-bye.